Welcome to today's Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to do some Jamerson. We're going to work on getting that Motown sound, that dark, punchy, almost muted, sort of warm, fat bass sound of that Motown era, that Jamerson, displays better than anybody. I'm using my P bass here. I like the darkness of this tone. I've got the tone rolled all the way off so it's dark. And I've got my mutes, which were very common in this era too. Jamerson muted his bass. As a matter of fact, many of the P basses in those days with that big cover, they had a big piece of rubber glued underneath the cover that just laid right on top of it. But this sound works real well. We're not going to deal with that many pitches today, just real simple root, fifth, octave. But we're going to work on right hand and left hand technique to get some of that little muting sound and that sort of clean, crisp articulation. Here's the pitches we're going to use in the key of D, root, fifth, root, D, A, D. Up here to B minor, root, fifth, root, B, F sharp, B. To G, root, fifth, root, G, D, G. And up to A. Root, fifth, root, A, E, A. Let me play just a little bit and then we'll talk it. Cool, got the idea? Later on we'll have a play-along track and we'll be able to practice with it. It's always so important when you're learning new stuff that you don't just sort of learn it up here. Oh, I understand it. Oh, I recognize it. Oh, I know what the pitches are. No, it's important that you play it over and over in a practice type situation, like with the play-along, because that repetition is the only thing that really makes it get solid in your fingers, in your ears too. It becomes a muscle, a neurological response, muscle memory. Excuse me. That's what practicing is. Good practicing is the repetition of a predetermined physical activity. So I'll teach you this stuff. We'll talk it here and figure out the notes and the fingerings and the articulation of the right hand. But then it's your job to work with that play-along track I'm going to play with later and just do it over and over and over until it sounds perfect. Then do it a bunch more. A common mistake people make is they practice something and it's kind of wrong and they kind of make a mistake. By the way, I used to do this. And then they almost get it right and they do it again. And after about 10 or 15 times through, they go, I got it. And then they move on. No, 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 no. Once you get it, then the real practicing starts. Do it over and over till you can get it about 10 to 20 times through perfectly. Then move to the next part of it and get it perfectly. The next part, get it perfect. The next part, get it perfect. Might take you 5 to 10 minutes on each separate part and then put them all together. Oh, so then you've got maybe a 4 or an 8 bar phrase and you need to work it until you can get it 10 to 20 times through perfectly. Only then do you become a solid player. When people start saying, man, have you heard that John Doe? His playing is so solid. Man, everybody be wanting to play with you. And that's what's fun. It's always fun to be the guy that makes other people sound good. That's by playing solid. Let's get started here. So here's our pitches again. First thing I want to show you is listen to some articulation. Again. D-ka, D-da. That's a muted note. I'm muting, holding right over the A, but I'm just muting it, and then I'm attacking it. Some guys do it all with one finger. I tend to play those tickunks, that little fast, with 2 fingers. Let's do that over and over so you can hear it and maybe get that sound in your fingers and your bass. 4, 1. See, that's not this. No. Mute note. 3, 4. A little faster. That little grace note, muted note is a big part of that Motown sound. There's a lot of playing that those muted notes are part of, but it's a distinctive part of that. Do it again. Play along with me. If you're still confused about that muted note, here's my A. I'm just loosening the string. I'm touching it, but I'm not holding it down the fingerboard. And I'm playing it. I hold it down and it sounds like this. I let it up but still touch it. It sounds like this. If I'm not touching it, it's an open string. So. This is a great exercise right here. Good, let's add the second half of this little phrase. And I'm just playing the root, which is the octave, the fifth, and the root. So, and I'm holding it down, sort of barring it, and I'm playing one finger. Look here in the right hand. I'm just raking across. Now, if you're not familiar with this raking, it's kind of sometimes hard to get the subdivision right. You rake and you sort of lose your da-da-da. But we're doing this. If you hold too long, you get a chord. You don't need to do that, but it's a... Let's do that real slow. Let's put both parts together. Play with me. Good, I know you understand. Now it's your job to do it over and over and get it solid. Let's go just a little bit deeper here and let's look at this note. That note, after the little muted pickup grace note. This note here, sometimes we can play it long or short. By the way, there's always a attention to be paid to every note you play. There's a beginning, an end, and a middle. Do we want it long? Do we want it short? Do we want it sort of fatter? Do we want it to decay? Yeah, that's real, gets real finite, real detailed. But as you do this more and more, you'll start to hear these things in the great players. Let's look at this one note. I played it short. Boo, da, da, da. How about long? Boo, da, dee. Short again. And you have to determine which one you like. I'm not telling you which is better, one than the other, but as you play with the groove in the song and listen to Jamerson, you'll start to hear some of his tendencies. Let me play it a few times and let's listen for that note specifically now. I'll sort of zero in on what feels good to me. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Did you hear what I did? I first played them long, and then I played them short, and then I kind of played it a long short. First I went boo, boo, da, da. The dot was short. Then I went boo, boo, dee, ah, long. Then I went boo, boo, da, da. Yeah. Let's try it. Let's play it long right now. I'll do it a few times long. Here we go. 3, 4. Short. Kind of an in-between. Sure. It is important that you eventually, like I said, learn to control these. It'll take some practice, though, a lot of practice and a lot of good listening, so that you just become used to it. It becomes common part of the way you practice and play to listen for those articulations. Okay? Now the exercise, as we're going to play along with the play along here in a minute, goes in those 4 keys I showed you earlier. Let me play it once through. 3, 4. Again. One more time. And once more to make the phrase even. Very cool. I think you're going to dig this a lot if you'll practice it over and over and over and get it to where you can fluently move that rhythmic phrase and that little shape around all over the bass. You'll start to recognize it and hear it in the Motown music big time. Let's go to that play along now. I'm not going to talk it, so you have to remember and work on this part. If you start playing the play along and it doesn't sound good, rewind, go back to this part and work out each one of these little phrases, each one of these little articulations, so it's solid. Sometimes people move a little too fast. They want to get to that playing part, which of course we all do. But if you don't have the physical technique down before you get there, it doesn't sound real good. It stumbles along. The play along is going to be real simple. Your job is to make it groove. Let's go to that play along now.